Welcome back to the Tattoo Budcast. I'm Sinai Garcia, and as always, I'm here with my bud,
Jimmy Jam.
And you are watching the Tattoo Budcast. Did I already say that?
Nope.
You are watching the Tattoo Budcast, the only podcast that feels like a tattoo session, minus the tattoo. We're here with a very special guest today.
Yay!
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 Pablo Hurtado.
Woo!
Licensed marriage and family therapist.
That's what I was going to ask. I was going to say, tell them what you do, because we're going to butcher it.
So that's your official title.
Yes.
Licensed marriage, and put some respect on the license part, right?
Yes.
You're our first guest that is not a tattoo artist.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
it's a big day.
I feel privileged.
I know. But, like, you kind of are because you're always in a tattoo shop.
Yeah. I have 3 tattoo artists currently.
Wow.
Good thing he's not an addiction therapist. Is there a lot of tattooed therapists that, like, a lot of your colleagues?
Yeah, all the younger ones are definitely tattooed, and they openly wear tattoos. It's not a big deal now.
The stigma is gone.
Therapists have always kind of been hippies. So a lot of odd personalities are attracted to being a therapist for the most part. So you get a lot of people with tattoos that signify something.
I remember you saying, like, that therapists are often people that have questions about themselves or whatever, which is what makes a lot of people, like, pursue the career.
Well, that's a problem for me, right? Because a lot of therapists become therapists because they want to figure something out about themselves and not because they want to work on other people. I became a therapist because I'm nosy. And I want and I want to ask people a million questions, and
You're a gossip doctor.
yeah, basically, yeah.
That's a good source of gossip.
Oh,
Change our line of business. No, we I guess some would say tattoo artists are similar to therapists because they have clients that open up to them about their deepest, darkest secrets.
I've done that for sure.
Remember you were saying, like, that you wanted to ask him something in regards to people opening up during their tattoo sessions.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
remember what you.
Something about like the science behind like feeling vulnerable at an appointment, and like because it just happens organically.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of people who do hair. I know people who like do Uber, and they all have like the same experience as you guys, in that people will just randomly open up their whole lives to you guys because they're kind of stuck with you. They kind of don't know what to do. They're awkward, and
And there's really no like personal attachment.
Well, it's like the theory, the stranger on the bus,
Yeah.
right? Somebody will get on the bus and tell their deepest, darkest secrets to a total stranger, something they haven't told their family, their husbands or wives, because they'll never see this person again. So
Yeah.
they release that energy, they release whatever they're holding, and they get to move on like nothing happened.
So it's like a low stakes vent sesh.
Yeah, sort of like with you guys, I would assume, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she creeps a lot of people out on the bus. It's kind of embarrassing. She won't shut up.
Shut up. I don't ride the bus regularly. Would you say that maybe an aspect like speeds that process up or something? Because sometimes people really go for it. Like, you're like, oh, like you just sat down and you're telling me something crazy.
No, I think what it is that people are ready to like let something go, and they know they can do this in this session, right?
Okay.
Like, and it's also a distraction, I assume, from the pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've seen clients. One of them actually in this room, whenever they get tattooed, they just will not stop talking about anything. So I would imagine maybe that has like the pain, just kind of like the distraction. And it's kind of like a subconscious thing where you have all the stuff that's built up, and
You just
what
let it
better way
go.
to let it out?
Yeah.
How old were you when you got your first tattoo?
I was like 18. I got a friendship tattoo. At the time, Chinese symbols were the thing. This is
Sick.
circa
Whoa.
2003, right? So I have one on my ankle, which I think you covered up by now pretty much for the most part.
I think we went around it, really.
Yeah. But
Have you seen that meme? It was the Chinese girl with the tattoo that just says water
I haven't.
in like Comic Sans font.
Or have you seen the one that's like somewhere in an alternate universe and it's a lion with a tattoo of a man on his arm? What does the symbol mean?
It just meant friendship, and there was 4 of us who have it, actually.
And you're like, that's the tattoo.
Yeah,
All right.
pretty much.
Are you guys friends still?
Yes. Well, 2 of it. One died. The other one I don't know where it ended up, and the other one I do know. So.
Why would you even ask that?
I tend to do that.
It's okay, but we're still friends.
Okay. In here.
Yeah, in my heart. Up here.
He's gonna need a minute now.
So what was the latest tattoo you got?
I got what was it? It was just some stars and some filler tattoo in the upper leg.
Which was like a day or two ago.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I was here. How you been?
Good. How about you?
Do you think that, I know we asked about your colleagues, but do you think that your tattoos affect your profession at all when it comes to clients or?
I think for the most part is positive.
I would think so too.
Yeah, people feel more relaxed, right? Like when you go in with a suit and a tie, people are already apprehensive and
It's
they
too
try.
official.
Yeah, they try to also impress you, right? Or they want to sound really intelligent. And
I had to break up with a therapist for that reason one time.
No way.
Yeah, it was an older white lady, and I found myself talking in almost like an interview voice, which is not how I talk. So, and then like there's like things about like if I say like partied during the weekend or whatever, I would like not want to tell her, and I was like I had to discover it myself. Like no one's benefiting from this relationship, right? Like because
Right.
I'm in there acting like she's hiring me for a job, and like so what am I paying this hourly rate for?
Exactly. Yeah. People just feel comfortable and relaxed. I use, very colloquial language. I'm just kind of like normal. And people are surprised, especially when it's like the first time in therapy. A lot of men, they're like, oh, I thought it was going to be so much different. I'm like, well, what'd you think? I was going to put you on a couch or something. No,
Yeah,
we're here
on
to have
a
a conversation.
fainting couch.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had the like exact opposite experience as Sinai. Mine found out that I was a tattoo artist, and like 6 sessions, that's all he wanted to talk about. And anytime I would like bring up something that I was like, all right, this is a good point or topic that I would love to unpack, he would just go right, and just go on back to the tattoo topics.
That's
Telling me about everything he has done. And but his dog was always barking and distracting him. His wife would come in and talk to him.
Oh,
And I was just
no.
like,
Oh yeah, no, absolutely not.
That's
right?
wildly unprofessional.
Yeah.
Is this the guy that you said that he didn't want to learn how to use the messaging feature on the app? Or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
Like that?
he was like,
nah.
I don't really do the homework thing. He was like, I just prefer it to be like, an audio call. I don't know how to figure out the video. And I was just like,
Oh, that's even crazier.
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks.
yeah, I was paying for those features.
Yeah, exactly. The audio is great if you have to do it, but like actually looking at somebody is like very helpful because you see
That's what I wanted.
their demeanor, like their body language, how they express themselves, are they looking away or not. You could tell a lot of things from just looking at somebody.
He probably didn't want me to see that he was playing Minesweeper on an old PC or something.
Right.
Or Sudoku.
Yeah.
My therapist has actually, now that you say that, been like, oh, like I saw your shoulder slump when you said that. What were you feeling? Or like she'll notice like little body cues too. So that is
Yeah, I was
you should
pretty
report
bummed.
that person to
I
the
did.
platform.
I did. That's for
Damn,
sure.
Karen. Why would you do
Hey, I was joking.
But you know what? That therapist probably works for like avoidant people who don't want to touch any subjects, right? So like every therapist has their audience.
Oh, maybe I should go to him.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about tattoos all the time, right?
But I was like so like irritated at the end of every session. Just like we literally covered nothing about me. It wasn't until like I don't know, maybe the 6th or 7th session that he was like, "Oh, maybe." He's like, "It sounds kind of like you have ADHD and stuff, and you should get that looked into." I can't do anything on my end though, but you could probably just figure it out on Google. I was just like, "Come on, man, do something."
What the f? So he was probably, do you know if he is old? Well, I guess you never saw him.
He was 4 years, I believe, away from retiring.
Oh, he was checked.
Check.
Well, not just that. I mean, back in the day, there was no board of behavioral scientists. So some people just got grandfathered in without taking a test, without really having to learn like proficiency.
Yeah.
Like, so, there's people who've been around for a long time who just didn't get that kind of like education, or they never cared to learn anything else because
New developments.
exactly.
Or anything.
Yeah.
Well, that's unfortunate. Because
You f***ed him? That's definitely against the rules.
For sure.
it's something I regret. And on that note, do you have any tattoos that you regret?
Okay, segue.
Not one at this point. I
No?
think no. Even the ones that I'm not too crazy about or whatever, I'm like, who cares? Like, I never look at them anyways. I don't stare
Yeah.
at my own tattoos, right?
You're a pretty easygoing person in that regard, though, too.
Once it's there, it's there. Right?
Yeah, like
And at the very least, it's like a point in your life, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like it's like with all my tattooers, I've said kind of like, well, I want this, but then when they put whatever they want on, I'm just like, just go for it. Like I always tell people, like all my tattoo artists, like, do your thing. I'm not going to tell you anything. Just do your thing and be comfortable. And I feel like that's the better approach, because then the tattoo artist feels comfortable. They're excited. They do what they want.
I've seen that firsthand every time you come in. It's probably the easiest clients that I have.
Dude, this motherfucker will leave without even looking in the mirror.
Oh, that's okay.
Or I'll put like the stencil on him while he's like lying down, and I'm like, do you want to look at it? And he's like, no.
Not
Like
really.
I could literally, if I wanted to, I could really fuck him up.
Well, you did a blind one on me, right? Like you put a tattoo on me that you and my ex picked out,
yeah.
and I didn't see it till it was done.
I've gotten one of those before.
You have? What
Yeah.
was it?
It was a butterfly.
What was the one that I did on you that was blind?
I think it was like
the
two
filler?
coral fish. No, two clownfish with the core on the bottom,
Oh yeah.
which goes with the
By
theme.
the ankle.
Yeah.
Imagine that was not the theme.
It just turned into a nautical.
Yeah,
exactly.
he has a space sleeve, and then there's just that. This episode's probably going to come out sometime in February, which is obviously the month of love. You know what's up, right, Jake? And something I wanted to talk about is the hot word on the internet right now is communication. We're all bad at communication. Every relationship needs communication. But I wanted to talk about like maybe picking and choosing your battles in relationships.
I think that's really important to do. Like how you pick and choose, is it important to you and is it relevant? Is it relevant? Is the battle worth it to you, right? It could be something really big that you really don't care about, that other people care about, right? Like your mom, for instance, right? Like my mom thinks you drink too much, so I'm going to pick a battle. If you don't care what your husband does or your girlfriend does, why are
Like
you...
if you yourself
do not care. Do not pick at it, right? You
Right.
know, that's how you pick your battles. And if you do care, explain why you care, why it affects you, not just nag at it, right? Not just say, you do this. No, it's like, hey, you make me feel like this when you do this, right? Like, and it affects us this way.
So
Right.
it would be, so the right thing to do would probably be just kind of take a moment, think about the situation, how it's actually making you feel, not because somebody else said something.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of research that indicates that, like, if you bring it up right when you're angry and upset, it's likely going to turn into a fight versus
yeah.
a discussion. If you go ahead and wait and sit down, think about what you're going to say, you know, say it in a way that, like, you know, speaks to your partner. If you're with this person in a relationship, you should know what speaks to them at this point. You should know what pisses them off. Think
Unless
about
you're
it.
mad.
Exactly, right?
I've been there.
And then you don't care.
So really take your time to
Yeah.
to get to it, and you know, really explain how it's affecting you and the relationship, and you know, you put in the other person's court.
Do you think that issue is becoming more of a thing?
Yes.
And
Yes.
why?
Because I feel people are now looking at other people's relationships, like on social media.
Oh, in a way that
Yeah.
was not.
Yes,
there before.
exactly. Before, like, you didn't really see what other people were doing as far as love for each other, right?
You're just experiencing what you have.
Yes. Instead of now you're looking at your friends getting these grand, you know, bouquet of roses and these things that are really out there. But like your friends aren't telling you that they ordered it themselves,
Yeah.
that they made their husbands do it, how it's
And
all
it's just a flex.
exactly, right? The people, the guys who, men and women who are like super attentive, who like do all these special things, it's because it's part of their personality, not something they learned. It's because it's naturally them. You can't make somebody be that.
Dang.
Right?
Yeah. Man.
Well, all right. Guess that's it for us. So I would imagine too, and maybe this is just because I'm avoidant. I feel like because this whole communication thing is, you know, such a buzzword, some people are, I don't know how to say this, like they're not taking responsibility for their own feelings, and they kind of want to place everything on everyone else. Like, oh, I've got to bring this up to this person because it made me feel a type of way, instead of
Are you,
like unpacking it themselves first.
you're talking about outside of your relationship?
Well, in any relationship, I guess. Because some things, like, you know, your partner may just be existing, and something they did made you feel a kind of way. Like, okay, I have the perfect example. This is something I had to work on really hard. When me and Joshua first got together, if I felt like he was in a bad mood, like I would be like, "Are you okay?" And then he's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And then like I would go down this whole thing like where I would keep asking him if he was okay, and then eventually that would lead to a fight. And it's just because there was an upset in my environment. Now I'm feeling unsafe, and now I'm gonna badger this motherfucker to make me feel better instead of realizing like, if he doesn't want to talk, that's okay. Like, he just doesn't have to talk. Like, it's not something like that he has to communicate to me every time. Like, I need to take responsibility for my own feelings at some point and do whatever I need done for myself.
Well, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, completely. That's super common in every relationship, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's not that the person's mad, they're just tension, right? Because that person feels something, they're in their head, they woke up on the wrong side of the bed, they don't even know their own feelings for the day, right? And they're just not communicating. So obviously the other partner feels, is it me? What happened? And
Insecure.
exactly. So, they badger them and then it turns into an issue. No, I
Yeah,
told
and then
you
it
I'm
turns
okay.
into an issue.
What I teach couples to do is to have like code word, right? Like when they ask, "Hey, are you okay?" And like it's like, "Yeah, I'm great," means like that's code word for like when I say I'm great is that it's not you. I'm not mad at you. I don't even know what it is. I think I'm just in my head, in my feelings. Don't feel any type of way about it. I love you. Give me some space or let it go, right?
Respectfully.
Yeah, because sometimes if you just let things go, the tension, but as the day goes on, the tension will just kind of naturally dissipate and, you could do something else, right?
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
had those days where I just wrong side of the bed, and I just can't get out of how I'm feeling, and there's literally no reason why I'm feeling that way, and then throughout the day, I'll just slowly kind of snap back, and
And you don't think about it as a bad thing that you're
Yeah.
doing, but when it seems to
Somebody
be
else.
done to you, you're like, what's going on
Yeah.
here? Like, another thing I had to, like, come to terms with is now we live together. And I literally, this poor guy, I talk from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed. And before we lived together, I would like, "Hello, I just said something. Are you going to answer?" But I had to realize that I literally think out loud. So sometimes like I had to like check myself, like, Sinai, how many times can like one person respond to something that has nothing to do with them, So like that's another thing I had to learn by unpacking this with the therapist is like, maybe it's not him, bitch, maybe it's you.
just shut the fuck up.
Yeah, like, or if you're gonna talk, like, sometimes other people aren't in the mood to talk, and it has little to do with you, like.
For sure. You feel the anxiety of needing to talk, right? You feel something, but it doesn't mean your partner's in the mood,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That day.
I've had that situation, like asking my girlfriend how was work, and I get it's fine, and then later on she will open up and be like, "So this happened at work, this happened at work, this." I was like, "Well, I asked you earlier," and she was like, "I just had a long day. I wasn't really like ready to talk. I was just getting home and unwinding," and I was like,
Cool. So just say you.
"Cool,
hate
so
me.
I'm just gonna freak out for nothing."
Well, that's a really interesting one. Getting home from work will cause a lot of issues between couples. So what I tell people is some people need to come home and decompress for a second. But if you're like, let's say, your boyfriend's, you're at home that day, you're off, right? And you've been cleaning and just finding shit he's doing wrong. So the second he comes in the door, you're like ready to like attack, right? And he's ready to turn off, right? Like, how does that work? Right? So like it doesn't.
I don't know. It sounds like you've been talking to him.
So
I don't know. Tell me what he said. Go ahead.
How would you navigate that?
Well, I tell couples like sometimes you need a moment to decompress,
Yeah.
right? Like go to the restroom, take 20 minutes in there, or just like TikTok for like 20, 30 minutes, whatever it is you need to like reset, right? Because what we don't realize is like when you go to work, it really starts from the moment you get up. You have to take a shower at a certain time. You have to get out the door at a certain time.
Yeah.
How long does it take you to commute? By the time you just sit at your job, you've already done a bunch of stuff, right? Now you do your job and then commute home on top of that. You're like dead by the time you get home, right?
And they're just opposite rhythms.
Exactly.
Yeah, and my girlfriend's really good at that. She'll just come home and go straight to the bathtub, TikTok, and then it's like, all right, I have a girlfriend again.
But yeah, a lot of couples like as soon as somebody's ready to come home, you just want to attack a problem. It doesn't work.
I got to learn that.
What, the decompress thing?
Mm-hmm. I don't really decompress. Like I go home and I'm naturally a talker, so I want to just
Yeah, me
keep
too.
talking.
I'm like, guess what they said at the shop? That's funny. Yeah. But
Yeah,
Josh
that's
was
me.
definitely a decompressor. Like, he'll want to come home and smoke or something. And that's another thing I've had to just like let him fucking do. You know, you're supposed to let each other be yourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess that's actually interesting. Living together, you start to realize things like that. Because anytime my girlfriend would go out and smoke, I want to go out and talk to her and stuff. And it's like,
Yeah.
no. So now I don't even bother.
But it's like unlearning the like you're not in danger just because something's making you uncomfortable,
Yeah.
right? Like people are a whole person outside of you.
Yeah, because it's not lining up with your schedule.
Or with
what you're doing
or what you're needing at that time.
So you're saying we're unhappy?
No.
Just kidding.
This is actually something that we've talked about amongst ourselves is the hurting your own feelings. It's kind of like along the lines of the communication thing where, like, say you're needing to be reassured. I don't know how would you, like, what's a good example? Like, if you're needing to be reassured, like, instead of, like, making, like, instead of inferring things or being like, so that guy's not that handsome. That guy's not more handsome than me, right? Like, to just straight up ask for what you need at that time instead of setting yourself up to be, like, let down when they don't play into your hand perfectly. I don't know how to say it.
Like your words, if your love language is words of affirmation.
Yeah, which mine is.
That's mine, too. I have 3 of them equally. And
Oh, God,
I'm
what a
very
monster.
needy.
What a fucking monster.
God, you know?
The other thing we were saying is, like, which this one doesn't bother me, but asking questions about exes or something. And then when you get the answer, you're like, I don't want to hear anymore.
Yeah.
How could you tell me that?
That's 100% me. But I've gotten better before. I don't know. I was, I guess, in a different place mentally. But I would definitely hurt my feelings all the time. Just because I need to know. It's like, I didn't want to know that.
You know what? Like, now that I'm older, right, and I see things a little differently, and I'm a therapist, right? I think talking about exes should be something you talk about, like, in the talking stages, early on in the relationship.
Oh,
Normalize
like low
it?
states,
Yeah,
or where things feel lower states.
When things are lower, right? When you hear about the other, because the thing is, everyone's had an ex, right, at some point or another, and it was and they were in love, and at the time they felt love, and that they were in a sexual relationship, obviously, and they knew each other intimately.
You're hurting his feelings.
I don't really like this podcast.
But that's just reality, right?
Yeah.
And when you accept reality, like, and let the other person express the positive and the negatives about that person, that's okay, right? Because it doesn't affect you. They're with you because you're a completely different person generally.
You think it's like an ego thing where it's like, I just want to be like in a perfect world, it's like, oh no, he wasn't hot, you're hot, like, just kind of fishing for something because maybe I'm a narcissist.
Yeah, well, I mean, it could be. I think a lot of people, it's physical attraction, right?
Yeah.
Like, physical, or how was the sex, or how was that?
Yeah.
But, the thing is like, as we get older, generally sex is better with different people. Like, like you could, who has great sex when they're 21? Like,
No,
nobody.
yeah.
Like, you don't know, right? So, like, some person could be really physically in shape, but it doesn't mean it's good, right?
That's true.
I think that, well, if I could take a wild guess, I would say, like, when you're comparing yourself unknowing or unadmittedly, like, to their ex, maybe it's like you're holding your metric system of self-worth outside of yourself, and you're forgetting all the things you do bring to their life, and like, you're almost romanticizing their ex, right?
Yeah.
Like, which obviously, if they wanted that person, they would still be with them, or they would be still pursuing them.
Yeah, for sure. Right? Why are they with you? Ask yourself. Listen to how the relationship came about and how it didn't work out, and reflect on your own relationship with that person. If that person basically chose if you're exactly like their ex, there's a problem, right? If you have all the same traits.
Oh, that's true. That would be worse, huh?
Yeah. That would just mean that person's toxic.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Right. Like, they are not growing or changing. That's actually a really good point. That would be worse if they're like, you're exactly like my ex. Then you'd be like, wait, what now?
I'm like, yeah.
That person is choosing a type. And it doesn't mean that you yourself are toxic. It just means that combo in personality is toxic.
What do you think about that word?
Toxic? I think toxic is just basically people who don't know how to regulate their emotions, like adults, right? Either because their parents didn't teach them how to regulate their emotions, they are naturally just very hot-headed, like they just don't know how to regulate.
So Mexican.
Yeah.
That's common, right?
Yeah, it's super common.
I know, for real.
But that's it. It's just that, right? Being toxic is just not knowing how to regulate your emotions and
Yeah, that makes sense.
acting out of fear.
And kind of plateauing and not being willing to learn and do self work.
Yeah, for sure. That's it, right?
Because, yeah, I mean, I guess all of us could be pretty toxic in our early days of relation, or like our early 20s or whatever. I mean, I guess it's different for everyone, but...
Yeah.
I think it's, yeah,
Or when you're scared.
exactly. That's when you really see toxic behavior come out. When you start seeing the cracks in a relationship is when people become more toxic because they want to hold on to that relationship even harder, right?
Yeah.
Like they start doing things that are outside of their character even in the relationship to hold on to this person. So yeah, anybody can become toxic in a relationship, especially when the stakes are emotionally high.
For example,
Like finding out that there's been lying in the relationship about like an ex or like financial situations or friends, right? Like your ex or your significant other finding out you've been holding secrets from them that are pretty important. You tell them, or personality traits that you haven't quite exposed, right? But look at it like this. A lot of relationships, this happen, right? How often does it happen that people go to like their husband's office party and everyone describes a man that is not your husband, right? Like everyone's like, oh my God, he's so outgoing.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
right? And the wife's
This
like,
guy?
who is this person, right? And it's because we're different people. We have different personalities with different people.
I've noticed that about myself. I definitely mirror everybody, even like friendships, like the style of humor, everything. And I in past relationships, I would always feel that like it's a little bit stressful to kind of like even mixing friends. That would always be
Oh, I remember that used to be like
Yeah.
something you hated to do.
yeah.
But we're also allowed to show different people different sides of our personality.
Yeah,
right?
it's
Like,
not wrong.
Right.
no, that's not wrong. Like I have friends who obviously you call when like you need advice, and there's
Yeah.
friends you call when you want to go out,
That's
right?
true. Yeah.
And you're going to express different sides of you to that person.
Because it's fun to be different people.
It is, but you could be different people in relationships too. You could have been
Yeah.
completely different from one relationship to the next, depending, because your partner could have a different set of traits that really make traits that you have either shine or like dim,
So,
right?
and so it's finding that harmony.
Yes, for sure.
We have a lot of thinking to do.
Relationships are hard.
I'm a fucking mess over here.
I know. I'm trying to ask questions for Ben.
A while back, I had read this book, which I guess is kind of outdated, but it was called, I don't even remember what it was called, but it was about love addiction. What gems can you drop on us about that? Because I think that's pretty common, right?
Well, yeah, a lot of people are addicted to the feeling that they get when they're first in a relationship. That first year you're with somebody is the most awesome year of your life, right?
Oh yeah.
So everybody wants to replicate those feelings throughout the relationship, but that's impossible. As you get to know somebody, your feelings are supposed to change. You're supposed to settle in with that person. You're supposed to like grow a life with them. And that life can't be completely on a high, right? But
Right, not real life.
yeah, it's not real life. So that's why people go through marriages so fast, right? They fall so hard in love and then
Fire
they get
burns out.
married right away. And then they figure out like, oh, now we have to live a real life. And the passion's not there, right? Because work or kids or money or whatever it is, when you're dating and getting to know somebody, the passion's there, right? The sex is new.
The chase.
The conversations are new, right? Like after a year
Right.
or two of knowing somebody, like
The unpredictability itself is.
you've heard everything, right? You've
Yeah.
heard their stories, you've heard like, their points of view, so it's not as exciting.
Right. And I feel like it's easy to just assume that somebody in the relationship is switching up, right? Like instead of just being like, oh no, we're in the next phase or whatever. Like that's what makes people jump ship right away to keep that spiciness. Do you guys ever watch that documentary, Meet the Patels? That was about
No.
Indian arranged marriages. Anyways, they talked about this on that documentary. It was a Netflix one by a comedian. I can't remember his name, but they were saying like in Indian culture, they're taught that love, that first year is going to fizzle out. So you need to get to love your partner on a familial level. Like no matter what comes, you guys are a partnership. You are now family and you're going to face everything together, which is why even though these people don't even know each other at the beginning, usually Indian arranged marriages, they stand the test of time because they learn to grow into each other as family, where we are so brainwashed by, American television and media that we're like, once the rom-com portion is done, that must mean that we've fizzled out and what's left.
100%, right? Like, so like I like in Asian, like in Chinese culture, right? They say love is fleeting, so you should find somebody who you're compatible with, right? And it's true, love is fleeting, right? So like you guys have seen those shows like Love is Blind, Love at First Sight, but the truth is like you can marry a total stranger and you have the same odds of staying married as marrying somebody who you know long term.
Whoa.
Who you've had a big
relationship
for,
with, yeah. Because haven't you guys noticed those people who are together for like 10, 15 years and don't get married, and they get married and get divorced right away?
Yeah, what's up with that?
Because they already lived the relationship, right? The marriage didn't really matter in it all.
Yeah.
It didn't change anything, right? You were with that person for this amount of time, right? So people think, oh, we're going to get married, things are going to change. And nothing changes. You're still in that same relationship.
And why would it, right? You guys are still the same people.
Especially after that long. Come on.
Or some people throw a baby in the mix.
Yeah, that's fun.
That never, ever, ever works, right?
Yeah.
No, I don't think I know a single case where it did.
No, it never works.
How would one that has trouble with that thing navigate into the transition of post-honeymoon phase?
Are you asking for a friend?
Maybe. We'll see. We'll see what happens to me when he says something.
We'll see if I cry right now.
I did. Okay, I'll be fully transparent. I've had trouble with that in the past.
Well, that's normal, right? Like
I feel like it is.
Yeah, that shift from all of a sudden being like so enamored with this person to like this person's just there, kind of existing in my world, is a hard transition. But I think to get past that is to really figure this person out, to figure out if you're compatible with this person long term, if you have the same goals, if you look at money and life the same way. When I do like premarital counseling, like I feel like every couple has to sit down and negotiate all the variables that could possibly happen, because there's a ton you can't negotiate already, right? But there's a ton you can.
As in what?
How do you look at love? How do you look at family? Like for instance, one is like your mom gets sick. Are you going to let her change her life by moving in and we're going to take care of her forever? Because if someone tells me that, I'm like, you know what? I don't want to be in a relationship with you because that's something I don't want in my life. Right? Like I'm somebody who's that selfish. Things like that. Money, like are we constantly going to talk about wanting to buy a house, but neither of us ever get it together? Yeah. I see that in couples all the time. What's your goal? To buy a house. I'm like, you're going to buy it and nothing changes. Mm-hmm. Nothing special happens when you buy a home. I bought 2 of them and nothing special happens.
It's like people kind of set these like goals,
societal goals,
right, that are like imposed on them by society, like the marriage, the babies, the houses, and they think that they're gonna reach that and like something's gonna shift on, like it's gonna make them more of a unit or something. Like,
well, look,
like a baby.
Exactly. Well, there's a lot of moms out there who are like become mothers, and it's the most important, the greatest thing that happens. But there's a lot of people who have kids and don't feel anything, right? Like who don't bond with their kids. Who
as a mom.
Yeah. Who aren't great parents, right? But what they'll do is in front of society and Instagram, they'll completely lie about it. I love my kids. This is amazing.
A content baby.
Exactly, basically, right? You know? And then in private, though, they really don't like caring for their kids.
I know people like that firsthand.
And I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, all too well, which is sad. Like we could probably all think of some. Let's go ahead and name them, starting with you.
All right, shout out to...
Here's one I've been telling couples with the whole house goal thing. And I tell them, I did not know the economy was personal to you. I did not know inflation was personal to your situation. Like, it's just you who has this problem. It's everybody, right? Because now if we have a physician who makes like, $250,000 a year, works for Kaiser, can barely afford $1 million home. What does $1 million home look like now?
Oh my gosh.
Right? So like even a physician or a very successful attorney, right? Like, to have a $2-3 million mortgage, you have to bring in big money, right? To be able to fund that mortgage and everything that goes along with it.
And now $1 million home is a 2-bedroom house in East LA, not even outside of, not even
LA proper, yeah.
Yeah, like way outside of that at this point.
Is that really a goal to have as a couple? Well, you got to look at reality of things.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's another. Here's where that one leads into living with family. Right. How often is your family gonna come over? Right? Are you going to tell everything that happens between you and me to your sisters or not? Because you might marry somebody who is extremely private and in their family they don't do that. And then all of a sudden you're telling your sisters everything. There's going to be problems there. Yeah. You have to negotiate that beforehand.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's a good
I
point.
need to make a phone call really quick.
Hey, bitch, shut up.
Privacy, right? Some people will tell everybody, "Oh, we're completely broke. Our credit cards are maxed out," and the other person's
Oh my
completely
gosh, that
private.
would fuck. I would kill someone for telling my business
Exactly.
like that. That's the thing about me and my boyfriend is we're both avoidant, which comes with its own struggles, but at least in that aspect, it's nice. Like, we're not telling anybody shit. And it might be selfish and stuff, but like, we're on the same page with at least like some of those things.
There's a middle ground to it all.
Compromise?
Yeah, there's this compromise you can come to, like, hey, if your mom gets in a tough spot, like, I understand her convalescence, like when she's really sick, but you guys got to figure it out past that. Like, this isn't a long-term solution or whatever it is, right? Like, you know, like, look, it's cool you tell your friends things about a relationship, but not your family, because I have to go sit there and have dinner with them, and then they know about, like, my erectile dysfunction or whatever it is, right? You know, like, you know.
So neither of those are right or wrong. It's just what your preference is.
Exactly. Right? Like where you're both comfortable on.
And make another phone call.
And apologize.
Because I have erectile dysfunction. No, I don't.
I think that's another thing He's hard right now.
Yeah, I'm so hard right
Can
now.
you guys zoom in on that little thing?
That's why I have this pillow here.
It's big from this angle.
Thank you.
That's another thing that I've really had to unlearn too in therapy is the right or wrong thing. Like nothing's right or wrong. It's like what works for you. And even when it comes to your relationship, like what can you compromise on?
But there's got to be some
Because you're not like a bad person for not wanting your partner to talk to their family. Like it's not like you're like that doesn't make you abusive or whatever, you know what I mean? Like but there is probably a compromise where it's like, okay, like I understand that you needed to vent about something, but
It's personalities, right? At the end of the day, marriage, I believe, like me, right, is about like personalities matching up, values matching up, right? Like it has very little to do with love long term. I believe that people do not marry the love of their life. They do not marry their soulmate because there's too much energy there. Right? Like that's why a lot of people secretly love somebody while being happily married to somebody else. Right? They would have loved
being happily married.
Yes, that's very common.
Are you gonna go make a call again?
2 calls.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Because you know you could have somebody you love so deeply and like they could be your soulmate, but you just don't match up in a lot of ways when it comes to values or responsibility.
Yeah.
And then you can marry somebody who like you match up in a lot of ways. You complement each other, and maybe the love isn't as intense, but your day-to-day life is good, right? Like you can't beat it. That's a compromise you make in life, right? If you know you love a dude or a girl who's crazy, you're gonna have crazy your whole life and accept it. Accept that person for who they are. But if you think they're gonna change, like they're gonna grow up and change, I'm sorry they're not. Like I tell these wives who they come to me, well, my husband's still smoking weed, watching porn, doing this and that, and I'm all like, has he always been doing that? Well, yeah, I met him that way. I'm like, what made you think he was gonna change?
Yeah.
Right? Like, because he got older? No, people don't change unless they want to.
And also, porn is dope.
And yeah, I was gonna ask, what are your thoughts on that? Because there
Porn?
are, like, I mean, obviously there's people that consider that cheating and stuff, and then there's people that don't give like 2 shits about it, right? About their partner watching porn. Like, is it unhealthy? Is it?
I don't think it's unhealthy. I think it's up to every couple, right? Like whatever you're comfortable with, right? I have like a lot of wives who will tell me like, as long as he watches porn and takes care of himself, amazing. Like
some will prefer.
Yes, they definitely prefer
Yeah.
it. And others are like, I just think it's disgusting, it's degrading, but it's a value, right? They view as porn as disgusting and degrading.
Yeah.
Not that that's their partner's value.
But what do you think about wives thinking that it's actually cheating?
I don't think it's personally cheating. I think
preference.
Yeah, it's a preference, right? The thing about it is that most men watch porn in private, right? It's something their wives don't know about. Most of my male clients, I ask them, like, you know, how do you take care of sex if you and your wife aren't sexual? And it's pretty common, right? They'll tell me, like, I watch porn for 2 to 3 minutes and jack off for 2 to 3 minutes every day.
Right.
And that's basically like a lot of married men's lives from what I gather.
Probably a lot of single men's lives.
Yeah,
Probably just a lot
for
of
sure.
men's lives and people's lives at this point, because I feel like women are like more sexually liberated now. Because I used to think porn was crazy, dude. Like in my
Really?
early 20s. Yeah, definitely. But the first time I saw porn was like just the nastiest, like most low budget fucking.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah. then obviously I was, well, not obviously, but I was raised super religious too. So it's always been a really bad word, you know? But now as an adult, I'm like, yeah, I'll go fucking read a book. You can go in your room. But then I've had friends too that like are not religious or anything and hate for their husband to watch porn. And it just kind of seems like more of a, like they feel rejected when they're, even though they know they don't feel like having sex.
Right.
They just feel a rejection, or like their husband's going to find something else or
Insecure.
something better. Yeah. Like that.
Well, women are more emotional when it comes to sex, right? They attach emotion to sex.
Oh, yeah.
Men, it's just strictly sex for the most part, right? And like we see it in sexual fantasies. So they did a study on like female to male transgenders, right? So they asked them when early on in their transition before testosterone, how their sexual fantasies played out. And they always played around love and these scenes that were romantic and, you know, like kissing and touching. Then they were asked the same question after being on testosterone, like a full round of, you know, being on, and it was strictly like sex, right? Straight to the point, graphic sex.
Wow, it's scientific.
Yeah. So men, you know, when they think of sex, it's completely graphic and to the point. Women,
Hell yeah.
women tends to be more of a scenario. It tends to be around like, you know, like passion,
Good
and love.
lighting.
Connection.
Exactly. Yeah. So we just relate to sex differently, and not that there aren't anomalies in the world, right? There's guys that are like, you know, who look at it that way too, and there's women who like are.
Yeah, I love
too.
a romance movie. I don't care.
Exactly, right? Yeah. But I'm just, you know, and I'm generalizing a lot of this stuff. There are anomalies out there in different people, right? But for the most part, what I see.
Would you consider yourself an anomaly?
We'll be right back.
You want to hear something funny?
What?
Maybe we'll cut it out if I'm too embarrassed.
Okay, go ahead. You watch the girl porn.
Listen,
Oh, God.
on Spotify, there's like, you know, audiobooks, and I was just like,
Oh.
I wasn't even looking for that. I was just going through just different categories, and I saw that there was one that had the little chili emoji, and I was like, I like chili. Tapped it,
Chile.
and it was like different, you know, different ratings of how spicy it is, and of course I picked the spiciest one.
Oh, like you're at a Thai restaurant.
Yeah, and it turned out to be this story about like a modern day Olympus with like mortalized like Greek
Pussy.
gods and goddesses and stuff. Which is, I'm already like, I'm invested, so I gotta finish it. But yeah.
So I gotta finish.
But I'm noticing that all of like the sex scenes are like from his point of view, like him talking, and I'm like, man, I kind of wish it was the girl telling this part of the story. Turns out it's books for women.
Romance novels, yeah.
He's like, there was this book and Fabio was on the cover.
Well, you know, romance novels are a big thing, right? Like it's a big
Smut
industry.
is
Yeah,
coming back.
it is.
For a while, I was into like erotic literature, like reading it, because
yeah.
it's like you paint the perfect scenario in your head.
Oh, then maybe I am an anomaly because I do not like any smut books. I'm like, yeah. This is all taking away from the plot. Like, I feel like we're on commercial break. Can we like fast forward this and get back to like who killed who?
Wait, what?
Like, I just don't like the romance books, like the...
Just kind of get it
And
done.
he gazed into her eyes, and I'm like, just tell me that they fucked, and then let's get back to the point. And I never watched the beginning part. We might cut this too, but I never watched the beginning of a porn. Like, I don't care why this guy's... If she's trying to sell him a house or what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of like that. See, that's weird, because I like that, like, I guess the chase in porn terms, I guess. Like, the build-up, I guess. And the teasing part, because once they get going, I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just emotionally attached to this.
To the pizza man.
Do you guys want to know, like, a lot of straight...
What's wrong with you?
Can you please help me?
So one of the categories of porn that's very popular amongst like straight males is transgender porn, right? It's like actually really big, and I don't think it's because men are bisexual.
Curious.
I think it's just a curiosity thing, right? Like they want to see a female that's, of course, you must understand on these porns, it's like the tip top of what a transgender who hasn't had surgery looks like,
It's
right?
fantasy.
Yeah, like super beautiful, obviously, like always done up, you know, to the nine, right? And so it's just a fantasy I think a lot of people are like curious about. Not that they are into it, but Who knows? I mean, I think a lot more people are becoming open with their sexuality. Like these
Yeah.
younger people that have these younger couples, I'm hearing more and more men say they're bisexual. And I'm just kind of like thrown back because, me being 40, I didn't really know a whole lot of men who
Different
were bisexual.
times.
Yeah, for sure. And I even ask now, like, oh, are you just attracted to women? And I get a lot of like, yeah. And I'm just like, and I'm like, oh, I don't know what to say. Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay, And I ask women, would you date a guy who's bisexual? And a lot of them are saying yes. Oh yeah, for sure. When in my time, I don't think there was like probably.
Oh
one.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I thought the answer was gonna be like, no way.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of people say cheating is cheating.
Yeah.
So like if they're into me and they're not going to cheat on me, then I want to be with them. So that's how I look at it.
Okay. Kind of a general question. What, from a therapist's perspective, what is love?
What is love? Well, love is different to a lot of different people, right? And I think like your love language has a lot to do with that, right?
Okay.
If your love language is words of affirmation, then for you,
Well, let's name the 5 real quick.
I don't know them off the top of my head. Do we have
Words of affirmation,
Gifts, acts of service,
acts of service, quality time, and I forget what the last one is.
Anybody?
I don't think these guys have ever heard of love languages.
Physical touch?
Yeah. Physical touch,
Physical
that was
touch. Yeah. Like let's say words of affirmation, right? So to you, love is what someone physically says to you, right? The word I love you, right? If your love language is like physical touch, you literally need to be touched to feel love. Like the words don't matter. Like you need to feel touched, right? When you have people who are like acts of service, that's very different, right? Like you express love through what you do. Don't tell me, show me. Right? Like how do I express love for you? I went to go get your car an oil change. I will make sure that your car is full of gas.
Yeah.
I make sure that your bills are paid. I make sure that you are okay. That's how I express love. So we have to like not just see how we think.
That's
what love
tight.
is.
What's up?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, have you ever dated
You
a
sure you're
tattoo
gay?
artist?
we need to know how our partner expresses love and watch for it, right? If we think our partner is like not loving us or we don't feel enough love, what is their love language and start looking out for that, right? If your husband doesn't say much, but he takes care of that house, he takes care of you, he takes care of the kids, he's like a dude who like will make sure like your tires are never bald, then like, he might be expressing love that way, but it might not be for you because you
Right.
may need the dude who doesn't.
It's doing nothing for you.
Yeah.
I feel like it's also important to ask for what you need too, which so many people will not fucking do.
And if they're not willing to do it, then maybe this isn't going to work
Yeah.
out, right?
Yeah.
Like accept that part also. That
Oh yeah, that's true.
like
Or
you
being
might
able to communicate it at
Exactly.
the very least.
if you're going to stay with the person, they can't change their love language for you. You're going to have to identify the love they are showing you through their love language, right? And see if that works for you. And if it doesn't, well then it might not work out.
Yeah.
So that's love.
And
Love-
even if you can, it may not work out.
yeah, love means a lot of things to a lot of different people.
So generally, it comes down to love languages. To answer the
Personality.
question, what is love?
Yeah.
I feel like for me, it comes down to stability and kind of predictability. Like I need that, I think.
Predictability.
Yeah. Like I kind of need to know what I'm going to get.
See, some people find that boring. and
Yeah,
not
and
love.
but there's the what we were just talking about. Some people, you're outside of that first year, and you're like, but I think in that first year, I'm probably fucking crazy.
In what sense?
I think I have a tendency to start relationships as what would appear to be anxiously attached, but when I'm settled, I'm the opposite. Like, so I would probably be the person that's like, why'd you change? Like, they would be asking me, like, why'd you change up? And it's just like, because I know now that we're locked in and I don't, need to fucking pop up at your house and key
I got
your
you.
car. I don't need to pop up at your house and key your car anymore because we're in love.
What are your love languages?
Mine is words of affirmation was the highest one, like by far.
What about you?
Acts of service.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Don't tell me you love me. Fucking clean my house, right? You know what I mean? Cook me a meal. Don't ask me what I want to eat. Cook something I like because you should know by now what I like.
I think that was my second one is acts of service.
Yeah. Mine is physical touch, number 1, words of affirmation, and quality time. But it was pretty close. It was like 30% each.
You're needy.
I'm very needy.
That's also a myth, though. You're just you.
Yeah.
It's true, bud.
Thanks. I'm gonna cry into the pillow.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say earlier about when we were talking about people get toxic when like things are starting to end or whatever. I was gonna say in a friendship when we've been mad at each other, you can see our differences because I could literally not talk to you and I'm just fine like that. And this motherfucker will like learn to juggle to make you laugh. He's like, you like this? You like this? Hey, you feel like having pizza today? Huh.
And I like fake a fall.
Yeah. See if I'll help him up and shit. Like, total opposite.
Yeah. So, attachment styles. You're avoidant?
Yeah. I think I'm
Anxious avoidant?
anxious avoidant or whatever it's called. Yeah.
I'm anxious for sure.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so.
Do you know what you are?
No, I don't.
Well, so I test secure, but I think it's just because all the therapy I've had, like, so I know what I need to do. I know what I'm supposed to, like, how I need to be there for myself and all this shit. But when I am not trying to be pragmatic and just, like, living life on the edge, I'm totally avoidant.
Well, I think I have a secure attachment style, but I think that came from my parents. You know, my parents really did, like, love me. Like, it may have not felt so loving, but they really loved me in this balanced way. Hindsight's 2020, you know?
Yeah.
Now that I look back, I'm like, wow, I had really amazing parents who taught me a whole lot. Like, my mom let me be really independent. And when you're a kid, you want the mom from, like, you see on TV on Step by Step or like Family Matters, right? And I had a mom that wasn't like that. And now looking back at it, she made me really secure in who I am.
Yeah, see, I don't think that came till later for me. And when I first read that attachments book, I was like, I tested secure, but I'm like, I'm probably anxious. I sound like I'm anxious because I've been in so many situationships in my life. But then after this last stint with therapy, taking for a real inventory of myself, I'm like, oh, you've been in situationships because that's where you're comfortable. Like, I may be placing it on the guy, like, oh, he doesn't want more. Like, why is this happening to me? But really, that's where I feel comfortable, is being able to do my own thing, checking in when I feel like it, and...
Wow, you're like a perfect girlfriend.
I really don't give a fuck. You could go with your family during the holidays. That's fine.
Oh, that's amazing.
I got a family, too.
But it's not like that initially.
What?
Like the first year, right? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, like probably during the first year.
So what's the click?
I'm more like checking my phone and stuff. And then like now I couldn't tell you where my phone is.
So when do you know, like, when's that point of click between?
I think when I feel the stability, like one thing that I will say about my boyfriend, as avoidant as I feel he is, or that we are, I have never had to doubt that he's going to text me back. There's no games. Even if he's upset with me, he's going to give me the respect of responding to me. And this is something we figured out early on. Before we lived together, obviously it's harder now, but if you're not in the mood to see me, you have to tell me. Don't invite me over and be in a bad mood, because that will lead to me like,
or ghost.
What's going on? Yeah, or don't just not respond. But I've never really had to put up with that from him. I've had to put up with me showing up and then him being in a bad mood, and then that leads to us fighting. But that we addressed really early on, and then after that he knew, like, he could just tell me, actually, I'm not up to it today. And like that, even if it's seems mean, like I have to check myself and realize it's not.
And how hard is that for you?
It's not hard.
That's good. That'd
It's
be
not hard
for me.
because I'm easily distracted, I think, too. But also, like, I don't know, I enjoy being by myself, so I don't take it personally if somebody wants to be by themselves. You have to think about it. The other side of that is what, going and then them seeming short with you, and then like, then what?
Yeah.
We just fight it out.
That just turns into
Because
a blowout.
Yeah, that will lead to a fight, Speaking of love and relationships and, I guess, compromise, what I remember a long time ago, we were having a conversation about this, and I agreed with you. It was about all relationships are actually transactional, and that sounds crazy, right? People are like, no, love should be unconditional, but that's not the reality, and that way to look at it is not healthy either or at all.
Like setting an expectation.
Well, we'll see what you say, and then I'll tell you what my therapist.
The theory, I think that all relationships are transactional, and that
Right.
you have to offer something, and the person has to be able to take that and turn it something constructive, and vice versa, right? Like, what do you have to offer in a
You
relationship?
do for me, I do for you,
It's not necessarily
but
just
not without scorekeeping.
yeah, and sometimes somebody can have money to offer, and the other person has emotional support to offer, right? One person can have like, have you ever seen a couple and you don't know why they're even together? Like, they seem so odd together, but then when you really get into it, they have this dynamic where there's this transaction in the middle that makes both people feel safe.
It's a formula.
There is no romance without no finance. And I will tell that to everybody in the world, right? So I see, like, for instance, I see these guys, I work with guys coming out of prison, and they often have girlfriends in prison, right? And they come out and, they live with these girls at the beginning of getting out, right? And these girls provide everything for them. But
Right.
what I've caught on is these women tend to be women who've been, had men in the past who have cheated on them a lot, and they can't really control. So they believe these men coming out of prison, they can control. And I think for in the short term, they can, because a lot of these guys are really naive. They have no resources. They have no
They have the
money.
upper hand ultimately.
Yeah, these women have the upper hand, thinking like, this guy's not going to leave me because I'm providing all these things. But what these guys didn't think is like, I got you, I could get someone better. And it's true, right? Because we even did this study on mice, right? That when someone's
Oh no, not the mice. Being
mice in prison?
fuckboys.
no,
Not
yeah.
the mice being fuckboys.
Well, it's that when people are in a relationship, they're much more attractive to other people because they must have better qualities to be in a relationship. They must know how to be in a relationship, right? So we found that mice that were paired up were more attractive than the single mice. Isn't that crazy?
That is
right?
crazy.
And a lot of people see that. That's why a lot of women will go after married men or vice versa, right? Because these men must have something that made them good, right?
Or there's like always that time like when you first get in a relationship and people just come out of the woodwork and you're like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? Like,
Well, the way I say it is that, like, you could be single for like 2 years and nobody will call you.
Yeah.
But the second you start talking to somebody, it's like everyone and their moms comes out of the woodwork, right?
And
Like,
it's because of what you were explaining about the rat thing, or is it because it's something that they now can't have?
I don't know. I don't know exactly what it is, but I think it's like when you're talking to somebody and you feel secure, you're in a different aura. You have more confidence, right? You're more likely to talk to the girl next to you because you have a girlfriend, right?
Subconsciously,
Exactly. Because
yeah.
I'm not trying to talk to you in that
Yeah.
way. So you show more of your personality.
oh, women are people now.
Exactly. Right.
That was a funny joke.
People? How could they be a people?
Really, yeah. Relationships are very transactional. You have to have something to offer, right, for another person to want you. You have to be in a good place in your life, and sometimes the transaction is like drama, right? The transaction is
The
like excitement, right? Like you get with somebody who's like really, really bad and who's like excites you, right? This is why we have people leaving these long-term relationships, these long-term marriages, to go be with a girl or with a dude like who's a little wild and who's good in bed and like to experience something different. It's because the transaction is now something else. The transaction is excitement.
The adventure.
So
Yeah.
it could change.
I remember
Yes.
I remember one of the examples you had used was you've had therapy with women that are like, I want a 6'4" baller that makes this much money, blah blah. And you're like, what does your life look like? And she's like, oh, well, I'm gonna get my GED and I live at home. And you're like, the transaction's not even. Like, you're asking for stuff you don't have. Like, so chances are, bitch, you're not gonna get it. Or like, why do you think? Like,
Well,
Why your standards so high?
yeah.
Well, I think that a lot of women have the thing that they want to marry successful men and that they're going to be treated like a princess. But the truth is, these really successful guys marry these women who are trophy wives, but they're trophies because these women are very emotionally intelligent. They hold it together very well. They're never going to make their husband choose them over work. Their husband's not going to come home after like negotiating $1 million deal and deal with like, you didn't take out the trash. These husbands are going to come home to a home that is perfectly curated. They have nothing to worry about. Everything's taken care of. And on top of it, this woman's going to display their masculinity in front of everybody, right? You know, like they're going to make them feel like the king.
The man.
In exchange, yes, you will have access to cash and money and to spend, right? But it's not what people think. People think like marrying a successful dude, you're going to be a princess and he's going to buy you this and that. Maybe for show at the beginning,
Yeah.
but after a while, like you have to take care of this man and you have to be intelligent on top of it. You can't display negative behavior in front of people, right? He always has to be on top and he always has to feel on top. And you're going to be second to him. And that is okay.
And that's the
That's why you're there.
transaction.
That is a transaction, right? So a lot of these women are like, I want a man to give me this, and that. Like I want a bouquet of roses. I want this, and that, gifts and stuff. Like that doesn't come just like that. You have to give something, right? Because
Right.
looks aren't anything. Looks are fleeting. and
Dime a dozen.
A dime a dozen. I also ask women when they have all these wants about how a guy looks. I'm like, what does your dad look like? And, you know, it's like, really, what does your dad look like? Like, he's probably overweight. He's short. He's probably, if you're Mexican, ethnic looking. And you're not going to give a dude like that a chance.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Right? You know, like you think you're better than that. When we break it down, there's a very few men over 6 foot tall. I'm 6'2", right? You know,
You're
So,
like, what's up?
Let me just put that out there.
you know,
And my Instagram is.
and I think a lot of people, second opinion, Pablo. I think a lot of people
With the number 2.
the number 2. I think a lot of people also, a lot of what I've seen in modern dating is a lot of women want men who are like emotional, like women, right? Like it's a man cannot fulfill all your needs, right? Like he can't be your best friend. He can't be a girl and then go outside and chop wood. Like that's what they're asking for. And it's
I
like,
had
that's-
one male therapist and he told me that. He's like, you need to stop expecting for him to respond to things like a woman would.
Yeah, he's
I was
not.
like, I'm getting a new therapist.
Like for instance, we asked long-term couples like before, how did you meet your husband? You've been married for 20, 30 years. And what we got a lot was like, you know, he wore me down. He asked me like a million times out and I said no. And I finally gave him a chance. And so that's how people found love, right? Like guys were aggressive in that way. Now guys are not aggressive in that way because women are like, I feel uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable. Well, they're not asking to rape you. They're asking to take you out on a date. Right? You know, and like they're asking to be nice to you. So like you need to decide what it is. Are they being nice to you because they want to get to know you on a deeper level? Or are they trying to just have sex with you? There's a difference there.
Yeah.
So
So the dating culture has changed drastically.
It's changed in a way that I feel is not healthy, to tell you the truth, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Because
You think social media is to blame?
yes, I think social media is to blame. And I look at it
And
like,
inflation.
yeah. I come across in my practice, a lot of really intelligent women who have degrees and are very successful. And the thing about it is that men marry down and women marry up. So men don't care about your degree, right? They don't care that your degree, right? They don't care about those things, which is important to women historically, right?
Yeah.
Something else is that like there's 3 women going to college for every 1 male. So your odds are really, really low. I think it's like 60 to 70%. I don't know the exact number, but women outnumber men in going to university and graduating. And so then, you know, out of those men, from my experience, you know, a good number of them happen to be gay, right? A good number of them happen to be like, you know, from Chinese backgrounds or like Indian backgrounds. So they're already like taken, right? You know, and then a good number of them are like, you know, already know what they want out of life. They're like, I'm going to be a player, right? I'm about to rule the world. So you have like a really small pool of college educated men who want to find love. You're basically trying to choose from a really small pool that everybody's trying to choose from. And then they want them to be 6 foot tall and gorgeous, right? Like, how does that work? It just doesn't. And I hear women saying, I'm manifesting this man. Well, you can't manifest a
Enough with the
person.
manifesting.
Yeah, you know, or I deserve to have a man like this and that. Like, no,
We were talking about how people abuse that word.
Yeah.
you know, you deserve to find somebody who respects you, right? And who has something to offer you. Because if a man is outside working a blue collar job or he's outside digging ditches, that is a man to respect because he's out there earning money and he's a good dude, right? Ultimately,
Yeah.
you know, like socioeconomics have nothing to do with it. Do you want a good guy or do you want a successful guy? There's a difference. And they're like, well, I want both. Well,
Good luck.
Good luck, right?
I had a therapist that had me, I forget what the document was. Maybe I'll put it in the notes if I could find it. But it was a list of values of like 100-something values, right? And then they had me go through, cross off the ones that meant nothing to me. Then from that list, top 20. Then from that list, top 10. Then from that list, top 5. And it was when me and my boyfriend were going through relationship problems. And then it was like, does he meet at least 4 of these top 5? And the one that he doesn't meet, can you live without it? And that's like a way to take, or like a way to, I don't know, not emotion out of it, but like just to look at the longevity of your relationship.
It's the
right?
80-20
Like,
rule. It's the 80-20 rule, right? Like somebody can only fulfill like 80%. There's going to be 20% of that person that you don't agree with.
That is 80-20.
So you just have to like figure it out, right? Like there's going to be, and as there's something in you that person also has to accept, right? Whatever that is. Like it goes both
but not
ways.
me.
No, not you.
Uh-huh.
You're too
No
cute.
way.
No. So, you know,
I better
often
juggle. Because I'm mad now.
Often with couples, I tell them I could really only work on about 30% of your problems. The rest of the problems you have, you're going to have to live with. And that's just the truth of it, right? You know?
Wow. That's
Yeah, it's hard, right? Marriage is hard.
Crazy.
Relationships are hard. Like love is hard. And who told you it was easy? Like your parents who were married 30 years, but
the movies.
only had sex 5 of those years, you know? Like who told you?
Not my parents.
No, they're still at
They be
it.
fucking.
they be fucking. You guys are gonna hate me, but I need to pee again.
What the
ahead.
fuck?
Yeah,
From
I
your
broke
butt?
the seal. You don't have to stop. I'll be really fast.
Okay, we'll talk about your relationship. Hey, Lisa. I'm just kidding. Imagine. I
We have a
have
special
Lisa
caller on
against
the
the mic.
phone. We have a special caller on the phone. Lisa, go ahead.
Well, maybe we could get into some of these listener questions while he's gone. This one's pretty heavy, actually. Well, at least I think it is, obviously, with my unprofessional opinion. In my unprofessional opinion, my niece hasn't showered in over a month, and parents won't force it. Suggestions, but they didn't say how old the niece is or.
Well, you're not their parent, right? So ultimately, that's the parent's job to kind of take care of. Now, you could always tell like your sister or brother, like, hey, you know what? Like your kid's not showering. That's probably a sign of something negative. You should probably look into
Do you
it.
think that could be like a sign of SA, as they say, or like molestation?
You know what? It just varies, right? Some people just go through funky periods in their time where they're just weirdos about something, you know? It's like people go through these periods where like, I don't want to wear deodorant or I don't want to shave my legs or whatever it is. It just has to do with like personal characteristics. Sometimes they're just unaware.
Or
of-
neurodivergence, even?
Yeah, for sure. You know, just people who are a bit odd in that way, right? You know, where they just don't see the point in doing something like that. But there's nothing much you can do other than, you know, suggest to the
Okay.
parent.
Your suggestion to this person is kind of to let the parent.
Yeah, pretty much. You know, they're not your kids.
Yeah.
You could always point something out in somebody, but it's very hard to like, you know, beyond that, get somebody to change.
Would it be a bad idea to ask the niece personally, like, is everything okay? I mean, that's acceptable, right?
Yeah, if you have a good relationship with this person, you just,
Without like putting down the parents at all or anything, just like straight up having a check-in with the niece.
I'd be like, what's going on? Are we going hippie here? Because I kind of smell you, bud.
Oh yeah, the cool aunt,
Yeah.
the cool aunt thing, or the
Yeah.
funny aunt thing is a
You're
good
going
idea.
hippie? What's going on? I smell you. You're kind of nasty there. What's going on?
Another fun aunt thing can do, or she can do is, or they can do is a trip to Bath and Body Works.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, something like let them pick out their body wash, their lotions, their like, and then maybe at that lunch date or whatever you can, is everything good with you? Like, and, you know, make a joking matter of it or whatever.
Yeah.
Or trick them into going to the community pool and just put a bunch of shampoo in the water.
Oh, the fountain and push them in.
Hawks!
Yeah,
Sorry.
that is concerning, but, I mean, a month is concerning, but
They go through phases.
yeah.
You know.
I mean, my mom would hold me underwater, which would probably lead to more trauma, but
Are you okay?
Huh?
She would hold you underwater.
if I didn't shower for a month, fuck yeah, dude. My mom's crazy about that kind of stuff. Well, you know, my parents didn't even like me leaving the house without makeup.
That's crazy to me.
I do not go places without makeup. And it's because when we were younger, I have all sisters, my dad would be like, he would make the skidding brake sound. He'd be like, "Arr!" Where do you think
He would Will Smith you?
where do you think you're going? Yeah. Where do you think you're going looking like that? For real. And we're like nowhere. Where my mom's not that strict, but she will. you're definitely not leaving the house in pajamas or without brushing your hair at least. And like that's something that I won't go anywhere without makeup now. And I'm like, maybe I should unpack that, but then I'm like, I don't know, I kind of like that about myself.
I look good.
Like, I don't want to be going places all fucking tirada, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Like, that's just not me.
Yeah.
Even if it was, like, instilled in me, like, against my will, I don't know, that's just not me.
I mean, there's something to be said about parents who, like, groom their kids well and put them out into the world well, right? Like, they care about how their kids look. I appreciate that.
So there is a healthy grooming.
Yeah, there is, like, healthy. Yeah.
I mean, maybe where do you think you're going? My dad's thing was, he said, if you never started wearing makeup, that would be one thing. He's like, but you have. So now when you go places without it, you look crazy. Like you look like you're having a bad day, which is kind of true, right? Like these people just saw you last week all like dressed to the nines and now you're out here in Cookie Monster pajamas with your fingers stained red. Like you can't.
Yeah, I've known Sinai.
And no eyebrows.
I've known Sinai for over, 12, 13 years now? I've probably seen her without makeup maybe 3 times tops. So good job, Sinai's dad.
You're like, because those 3
Thank
times.
you.
You're like, because those 3 times were
Hey,
scary.
I know what you mean.
And those 3 times I've had my makeup bag because we're going out of state and like we have an 8-hour drive ahead of us. So the next listener question is, boyfriend liking an IG model's thirst trap. Is it really that, capital letters, that bad?
It's not that bad.
And well, that's what you were saying, like, you judging something or deciding on your relationship from other people's perspective. Does it really bother you? Because you said, is it really that bad? It seems like it doesn't bother you that much.
But also, what does liking a photo mean?
I don't give a fuck.
It just means
You
that
can follow all the Fashion Nova models.
Sure, I mean you follow them, but liking it, what does that mean? What does that do?
it just means that you are sexually attracted to this person. You want to give them a thumbs up, right? It just
And
means
it's
like,
for them?
It's like, hey, you look great, right? That's it.
A compliment?
But past that, I mean, if your husband's DMing them or your boyfriend's DMing them, that's a different situation. But for the most part, I mean, I don't think it's that serious,
Yeah.
right? I think you're very insecure at that point, you know?
Yeah.
And if your
Yeah.
husband has nothing but like hot 20-year-old models on there and you're in your 40s, what kind of money does he have? Because if he has a whole lot of money, then I'd be a little scared. But, he's a fat, overweight dude, average in bed. You have nothing to worry about.
And
Trust me, you're fine.
You're fine.
And you should also consider if these girls are at least written in the same font as you. Like if you're a Latino, like it's personal experience. If you're a Latino with thick eyebrows, are they?
Exactly, right?
No, but I don't know. I think like the liking is. What's the alternative? You confront him and he stops doing it. It's not like he's not having those.
Well, it's like
peaks
people
of interest.
It's like women who get really upset because their husbands are on OnlyFans, right? It's a fantasy. OnlyFans is nothing but a fantasy, right? And like for the most part, those guys are chit chatting if they're paying for texts with another dude.
That's what I was wondering about the OnlyFans thing.
Yeah, like a lot of the person, it could be a chat box on the other side. It could be like somebody halfway across the world answering back. It's never generally the person.
Yeah.
Right? Unless they have a really low number of followers, right? But if it's
Right.
somebody like famous or like, has over like 6,000-7,000 people following them,
Yeah.
you're probably not talking to them.
They might have a manager or a pimp that's running their
Yeah,
shit.
for sure.
Yeah, I've
You
met
know?
people that actually do that for
Yeah,
those
we
girls.
know someone that does that, and it's like a fucking straight dude on the other side that these guys are talking to, and the girls are literally just posting their content, and they don't have to worry about what happens.
Yeah,
from that
you're
point
being
on.
called daddy from a daddy.
Yeah, literally.
Literally.
Yeah. It also, I guess, depends on, this person said IG model, but the proximity of the OnlyFans person, like if it's their coworker that has an OnlyFans, then we're getting into,
Somebody you know personally.
then we're getting into Sinai's going to jail.
Yeah, so what is your opinion on that?
Well, look, if you're liking your coworkers' sexy pictures, and, that's probably not a good thing, right? Like boundaries, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're a dude, you should be smart enough to have boundaries, right? And be smart enough to know, like, hey, this model who has like 1 million followers, I can like all I want,
Drop in the bucket.
Yeah, but like, my coworker who has like 74 followers, like I don't know about that, right?
Yeah.
Like, that could lead to other things. So you got to be smart. You got to gauge it right. And what are your intents, right? If your boyfriend is or your girlfriend is flirting with somebody on there that they could tangibly talk to, then you have bigger problems in your relationships, right?
Yeah.
But if it's like a
So this IG model, I don't think it's that bad.
no, if it's Natalie Nunn, come on, you know.
On that, what about flirting with other people?
Well, I mean, if you marry somebody who's very flirty, you get with somebody and they flirt with just about anybody, like, you know, when you go get coffee or whatever
Yeah.
it is, that's just part of the personality. Now, but how far does it go beyond
Yeah.
that is really my question, right? Like,
Or numbers exchanged.
exactly, right? There's definitely like a line there of acceptability of like what's appropriate and what's not. If they're crossing it, this is probably somebody who like has issues with boundaries. It's probably not
Yeah.
going to work out, right?
So it kind of depends on the degree of it
Yeah,
and
pretty
the
much.
intent, like you
And
were saying.
what you feel comfortable with, right? Because again, like if they're constantly crossing what makes you feel comfortable, maybe they're not the one for you. Or
Yeah.
like you don't need to change that. You don't need to check them on it, but maybe they're just not the one for you.
Yeah.
Because I was listening to some relationship podcast a couple years ago, and they were a couple and they were both therapists.
Yeah.
And the girl was saying that it's kind of important to keep that the flirting in it. Like she allows it, and she thinks
Now I have to make a call.
She thinks it's it's healthy for couples to kind of keep themselves a little bit.
Yeah, a little
Because
part of themselves.
you're not going to keep flirting with the same person every. It just
I think that's where
It's not
the
sustainable.
healthy is, right?
Yeah.
What's up?
Do you think boundaries are something that can be learned?
Yeah, people can learn boundaries. People can get better at boundaries, and like sometimes you just gotta state them. Like, hey, I'm not okay with this,
yeah.
right? But
You got to state them, and you have to be willing to restate them because they're your boundaries.
and you have to negotiate them too.
Yeah,
right?
that's a
You
good
know,
one.
you
What I'm saying is,
negotiate
like,
the
if the
boundaries.
person doesn't have, like, they're a little more free, wild, or whatever, and they don't really understand boundaries. Do you think that person can learn those boundaries of the significant other to prevent?
Yeah, I think that's completely possible. It just depends on how motivated that person is, right? To learn those boundaries, right? If you're in a relationship with somebody who's like, look, this is who I am, and I don't change who I am, and this is part of my personality, they're not going to change that. But if you marry somebody who's like, you know what, I've never been in a relationship where this is an issue, I see it's an issue for you, let's work on it, then yeah, you could totally work it out. Yeah. It's tough. Should we talk about a little bit about cheating?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a hot subject, right?
that is a hot subject.
That is hot.
Yeah. A lot of people think cheating is like the end all be all to a relationship, right? And I really don't think it is. To some, yes, right? But not to all relationships. Like in France, like when people cheat, it's looked at as what is emotionally wrong in our relationship versus like we should break up. Men, the thing is that women cheat just as often as men. Right? Like obviously the numbers are the same, 50-50. The only issue is that men get caught right away, right? When a man starts cheating, he starts just walking a little different. He starts smelling a little different. He thinks he's being
He starts
slick.
losing weight.
There you go, right? So like I often ask wives, how do you know he was cheating? He was just walking with a pep in his step. And I knew something was off, right? Women,
Wow.
women are slick, right? Women are much more intuitive and they're much more emotionally intelligent. So I often ask husbands, like, where did you see, like, it going wrong in your marriage? Did you notice anything? And they'll often be like, well, she was a lot happier, so I thought everything was great,
Oh man.
Dummies.
Yeah.
So do guys not find out till they find hard proof usually?
Yeah, women, it's a lot harder to catch a woman, right? Cheating. And here's the thing: when a husband gets caught cheating, the wife will call everyone and tell everybody. When the wife gets caught cheating, the husband will often keep it to himself, right? Because
ego.
Is it an ego thing?
What will your friends say? Oh, you can't pipe her down?
Well,
Do you know what I
can
mean?
you?
Yeah, exactly. So
And that's 100% what will happen.
exactly right. I'll be like, "What's wrong with you?"
Guys will just say that to each other?
Yeah. Like, what's wrong with you?
I always wonder what guys talk like when they're. Well, I guess I know for a large part because I work in tattoo shops, but when they're not around anyone.
It's much more shameful for men. So men will keep that quietly. A couple can hold that quietly, but when men cheat, the women will tell the
hell
grocery
yeah.
store clerk,
I'm calling
right?
my mom.
Yeah. I'm calling
And your mom.
Yeah. Emotional cheating. I think emotional cheating
That's
is worse.
the worst, right?
Emotional cheating is worse than...
It hurts more than sexual cheating, huh? Jake, what's going on? Are you okay?
I think that a man could get past emotional cheating a lot easier than a woman can get past emotional cheating, right? I think as
Makes
men,
sense.
we think like sex is the most important part, right? But with women, it's the emotional.
I think
right?
it's that it is worse if it's like you're giving this other person this third something that the woman's been asking for.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
If your husband goes to Vegas, meets somebody drunk, and cheats on you, it's not like he developed a relationship with this person. It's not like they go to work every day and see each other and talk to each other. That's just getting off versus like your work life, right? That's a lot tougher to happen. So there's definitely a difference there, you know? But cheating is kind of this thing where like it happens in relationships and you just got to know what kind of person you are. Some people will immediately just break up with you, and that's okay if that's who you are. But like at the same time, like perhaps you did something wrong too. Perhaps you weren't meeting your husband's needs in some way.
yeah.
Perhaps like, you know, here's the thing when that I see often find in men. When women degrade their husbands and don't treat them like men, and they start saying, well, this dude does this and that dude does that and you don't do shit, he's going to go out and find a woman who does that for him. And the first woman that does that for him, and there's a lot of single women out there, by the way.
Yeah.
There's a lot more single women looking for dudes than single men's looking for women, right, out there in the world. So they're going to come across some girl who's going to make them feel what you don't make them feel anymore, and that's it. Right? That's just it.
Oh, you're cheated.
Okay, I'm going to ask this one because I feel like this is what it's
Okay.
about. So this person asked, getting over mistakes from the past. When I reflect on my wrongs, I can't help but feel like shit. So I feel like that's probably about cheating, but
Well, look, if you did something and you hold guilt, you have to work past that, right? You did something wrong. How can you get past it? And if you still hold it like years later, it means that something's wrong. There's something deeper there, right?
Yeah.
It means that there's probably still
Nothing's
a side.
been resolved.
Yes, there's probably a side to you that's struggling with that, right? Like it was okay, it wasn't okay kind of deal, you know? But I often tell people like, hey, if you made a mistake, like this is something that's amongst therapists kind of controversial, right? Like if men disclose to me that they cheat on their wives, some therapists will be like, you have to tell her, and some people are like, don't tell her. I tell them not to tell her. What's the point? You're going to ruin her life. Do you know what I
Just
mean?
for you to feel better about what you did.
Exactly. You're going to go ahead and blow up her life, her world, just so
I've heard that before.
you can let it
yeah.
go.
Yeah.
That
Like-
you're just trying to like assuage your guilt, like alleviate your own guilt.
I've been cheated a lot in relationships. I think all my relationships I've been cheated on.
Yeah.
I don't
Me
hold
too.
I don't hold it personal because that's their problem. Right? Like maybe I was doing something wrong but they didn't tell me, or maybe they told me I didn't hear, so they went and did it. Whatever. That's their problem, right? So like if someone cheats on you, I always say like it's the other person's problem for the most part. But when you come around and you tell the person that you have cheated, now it's everyone's problem.
Right.
You know, and now you've ruined that person's life, right? This is not knowing, you know.
Right. So one of the things that I thought of when I read this question is, it sounds like this person is either dealing with guilt or dealing with shame, and I think those are two different things, right? Like, because guilt, you're feeling guilty because you did wrong to someone else, and you're possibly feeling the persecution of that person. Now, if they're long out of your life, or maybe they're not, giving you a hard time, you're probably dealing with shame, and that's something that you have to deal with in yourself. Like, you kind of have to forgive yourself, or like realize like that maybe you're not even that person anymore, maybe, or hopefully you did learn a lesson from that. But I think they're two different things, don't you?
They're interchangeable in some ways, you know, like people will feel guilt, which will lead to shame, or vice versa, you know, but they are two different separate feelings. The thing with shame is that like you did something shameful, and how do you get past that? By not doing it again, right? By promising to yourself.
Right, yeah.
I'm
That's
not gonna
getting
do
past it. There's no, work. There's got to be some work that can be done.
to get rid of shame. Well, by that point, if you feel guilty, then you've worked on it, right? You've thought about it, you've digested it. Now it's about getting past it.
Like you've acknowledged the wrong that you did.
Yeah, the first step is definitely acknowledging.
Because
that.
assholes aren't even going to feel the guilt.
But
Oh,
what about like? I was talking about like learning why you did that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's part of the work, right? Why
Yeah.
did you do that behavior? Identify it.
Which
and
is what
don't
you were
do it
saying
again.
about France is like, what
That's
in this circumstance made me seek an outside person, or in myself made me seek an outside person.
In every relationship, there's two people, and two people have to take responsibility for something, right? You know, it's very rare that you just get one partner that's an angel and the other person's like a devil, right? That's like very rare. Most people have negative attributes to themselves. Most people
Yeah.
have toxic traits. So it's like a two-way street, however you look at it.
Well, it's a good way to analyze those things so you can work past those traits.
Just like being honest with yourself about who you are and really looking at your personality. Like, who really am I, right? Like, am I this
Yeah.
dude who like always has to cheat? Like, am I that person? If that's you, then you should never be in a relationship again. You should be as free as a bird, right? Because you want it both ways. You want to be as free as a bird, and you also want the comfort of a relationship. And that's like something in life that you just can't accomplish, right? Very few people can have their cake and eat it too. There are these people in the world, right? Anomalies, right? You'll meet that couple who, like, the wife is like, my husband can sleep with anybody and I don't care.
Yeah.
It works great, right? But those are very rare people to find in the world. They happen, right?
Yeah.
But I always tell people, you know, don't look at the exception, you look at the rule.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah.
There's some exceptions in the world. That,
Oh, okay,
You know,
yeah.
like there's these people who are like in open relationships, or like, you know,
That's
the
not
wife.
necessarily the status quo.
Yeah, you know, that is like the exception. The rule is that most people do not want to be cheated on.
So are you this person, or is it a mistake you made?
And figure yourself out. Like, who are you deep down, right? Like, are you in a part of your life where you want to explore sexually? Because what I'm finding is a lot of men are having existential crises around 36 to like 42. Men have this existential crisis that I myself had 39, 38, right? And I verbalized it, I think, at the time. And that existential crisis consists of, hey, I'm about to live the second part of adulthood. Am I happy?
So it's like an evaluation of what your needs and wants are.
Or like an inventory?
Yeah, because what you want in your 20s and early 30s changes, right? Like in our 20s and 30s, we look outwards, right? We look at the world and we want to project something, want to build something. As we get older, we start looking inward into personal happiness. When we figure out that it doesn't matter what we wear or have or whatever, what makes me happy, right? You know, because things aren't going to make us happy. Relationships aren't. We ultimately have to be happy with ourselves, right? It's like when guys, like, you know, are like, I'm completely satisfied with the sex in my 20s with my wife, right? Well, of course you're 20. Anything
Yeah.
you stick it into is good, right? You know?
Oh,
But-
yeah.
But like, you know, after you know, after a time, you may have noticed that you didn't explore enough, and that's okay to do, but you have to just be honest with your partner. And if you're having an existential crisis, tell your partner that, like, hey, I'm in a weird place right now, and I don't know exactly what I need. And like, unfortunately, you're here for it.
What would you recommend a couple going through that?
To just be really open and honest with each other, to
Yeah.
go to individual therapy and couples therapy.
How do you find a good couples therapist?
Oh, that's like a very good question. That's the most important question here. The thing is like they have to match up with you. And what often I find, because I see so many men, because, you know, men want like a male therapist, is that, you know, a lot of people who go to female therapists, they become very biased. Like, they'll tell me, she just allowed my wife to ramble on for the whole hour and just put me down the whole hour. And by the time they got to me, I had nothing to say, because what can I say past that?
Yeah.
Like, and it goes from into, if your couples therapist just allows you to like berate your husband and doesn't hold you accountable, you're not going to fix your marriage.
Right.
They're just
Yeah.
letting you decompress on
You
your
go do
husband.
that with
session.
your sister.
Exactly. Right. So that's not the therapist for you, because a lot of therapists come in with their own bias, right? Like, I'm not married, never been married. So people will be like, well, are you married? And I'll be like, no, that's why you should have me as a therapist.
Yeah.
I'm not in your situation, or can I relate? And I can completely be impartial. And, you know, often what I have found, me being a male therapist, the most important thing is I can allow women to see their husbands for who they are, from the male perspective. I could be like, look, this is the dude you married. The dumbass skater dude you married who was smoking pot and drinking at 26 was really attractive because he was young and attractive.
Your needs changed, but he didn't.
Yeah.
The transaction change.
But now that he's older and unattractive and he's doing the same exact thing, you know, you don't want him anymore? Well, that's not the deal. People do not change for the most part, right?
Yeah.
People think men are going to grow up and change, right? And that doesn't necessarily happen, you know, and vice versa for women too. You know,
Right.
a lot of men will think like, oh, she won't want to go out with her friends anymore, or she's not going to be so close to her sisters, which is a big one, right? Or her family. Now she's going to want to come to my house. And instead, every Christmas, the wife is like, we got to go to my mom's. We're going to go to my mom's because your sisters don't like me and your mom's not nice to me. And then what happens is men become disattached from their family and they become isolated. And so when they go into that existential crisis, a lot of men will tell me, I don't even know who my siblings are. I don't know who my mom is anymore. I want to know who they are. Like, these people are important to me. And slowly but surely, I don't know how, my wife pulled me away from these people, and I'm pissed about it. And I'm like, you should be pissed at yourself. Number one, it wasn't your wife. You allowed that.
Oh, wow.
Why? Because you let your needs come second.
She kind of took away who you are.
Yeah.
No, that's what he's saying. It wasn't her. You allowed.
Mm-hmm.
You gave away who you were, right? Essentially.
This is very toxic, in my opinion. Happy wife, happy life.
Oh yeah, that is pretty toxic, huh?
You know why it's a setup? Because eventually the guy was
Hold
going
on,
to
if you're watching Joshua, go ahead and tune out.
Because eventually that guy is going to rebel, right? Eventually his happiness is important.
Like, yeah,
You know?
like anyone who could live with only making someone else happy? That's crazy.
It is crazy, right? And that could work if you're really rich, because it's very easy to make your wife happy, right? Like, if you could just...
And even then, that bitch ain't happy.
And I will say this, when you have money, love is a lot easier, right? Like, unfortunately, finance and sex are two of the most important things people argue about, right?
Yeah.
And when you have money, your world is easier. I'm not saying your problems go away, but what I'm saying is your security is there, and you have more an ability to do more with it, to go to therapy and explore it.
Yeah.
To like go on your crazy wild trip, right? You know, and to like hire a nanny to watch your kids. But if you can barely like pay for your rent in your apartment and you're unhappy, like, it's not gonna go well, right? Let me give you this analogy, right? Like, often I get men who are like, dude, I work my ass off doing construction, like, and their day starts at 3 a.m, right? You know, whatever. To come home and to deal with an unhappy wife, unhappy kids, not being able to pay your bills, people demanding things from you, I want to shoot myself. Not literally, right? But they just feel dead inside, right? Because no one's saying like, damn, you're out busting your ass in this inflationary period. We can barely keep up. Why don't we stick together and make a plan? And why don't we support each other emotionally as a couple, right? But instead, guys will come home and just drink, right? Or do whatever, zone out. And women will just sometimes complain, right? And, you know, why aren't you paying attention to me? And it's because there's no communication there. Nobody's being real about their situation. You married a poor dude. Like, that's the end of it, right? Don't marry someone poor and be unhappy later on when you're poor. That doesn't make sense to me, right?
Yeah.
Well, sometimes it's hard, Pablo.
Did you marry a poor dude?
Yeah.
It's totally true, and I've been guilty of this too. Like being with someone and expecting them to either grow at the same rate as you, or like, oh, these are just the right now problems. We couldn't possibly face these problems in a couple years, and then you do, and eventually the fucking, what is it? The chickens come home to roost, and you're gonna deal with those problems sooner or later.
You guys as tattoo artists are an anomaly in the world. You guys are one of the few people who get to make money doing your craft, right? What you love in your art. Very few people in the world get to do that. You guys are so lucky to be able to do that. It may not be perfect, but like, your guys' careers are, one, lucrative, right? And two, like, you're literally doing what you love to do. Like, how often does that happen? Most people do a job that they hate. You know that saying, you know, if you find what you love to do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
Well, what is it you love to do? You love to skateboard? Well, how are you going to make money at that at 44? Like, you're not.
X Games, duh.
Shout out Tony Hawk, come on the show. Hey dog, come sit on the couch. But there's a lot of people. Tattooing is typically a place where relationships go to die, right?
Yeah, it is
Like,
very common.
I think right now we're in the healthiest, he and I anyways, are in the healthiest relationships we've been in since we've known each other.
Yeah. But it took this long to kind of figure things out.
And it's taken so many therapists and just like learning and changing and growing. But so many people that we have worked with, the dude, like, especially the men, like, their wives are just not cool with it, and they're adding to the problem too, you know, like.
Speaking of that, right? The DSM-5, the Diagnostic and Statistical Diagnostic and Statisticals Manual, right? What us therapists is our Bible, right? How we diagnose people. Under the umbrella of, and I have it, paraphilic disorders. There is
What is that in plain English?
Paraphilic is that
disorders.
you're attracted to an object or something, not the person, right?
So kind of like a kink, would
Yeah,
you say?
there you
Facade.
go.
Oh.
Yeah, you're attracted to feet. You're attracted to like inanimate objects. You're not. It's not the soul of the person you're attracted to, right? You're attracted to
The whole foot?
Yeah, you know what
It's
I
the
mean?
opposite of pansexual.
Exactly, right? So, there's a subdivision under people who are attracted to people with tattoos. It's a fetish, right? So they're just attracted to you because you have tattoos, right? People find you more attractive because you have tattoos.
You're just giving me a big head.
Yeah, dude. You just went up 2 points on the 1 to 10 scale.
But I do believe like tattoos make some people more attractive. For sure. They make you more interesting, I think, to other people than what you are.
You know, it's funny that you say that because I was going to say, no, I don't think I fetishize tattoos. But I do think it would be weird to date someone with no tattoos, especially being, because, your own tattoos, you forget you have them.
Yeah.
Like you see yourself in the mirror, you just see yourself. But it would probably be weird to date someone with no tattoos. I would be like,
Not for me.
I'm daddy now.
Well, I could see why not for you, a
Yeah.
female, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
could see a female without tattoos. I'm dating somebody, and at first they're really attracted to my tattoos. And recently, I asked. It's been like a couple of months. I'm like, "Do you even see my tattoos?" And they were like, "No, I don't." That's so funny you mentioned that. Like, I no longer see tattoos. I just see you.
Yeah.
And it's like I think that happens. People don't realize that. I forget my own tattoos sometimes.
Me and Joshua were at a comedy show one time, and this guy made this joke that was fucking stupid, but it was like about, and then when you like come on her back, it's like 5 points. He was talking about dating someone that has a lot of tattoos. It's like 5 points if I hit the flower, 10 points if I hit the butterfly. And I was like, do you like note? I asked him the same thing. Do you notice tattoos like when we're having sex? And he's like, no, but that fool ain't dating that girl. Like, who thinks like that? Like.
So that could go away if it is your thing and you develop a relationship.
Well, do you remember
it's
that
a
your girlfriend has
fetish.
feet?
every minute of every day.
I mean,
I wish she had more.
I think if somebody
I
has,
wish her hands were feet. Just kidding again, babe.
What is with the foot fetish?
I don't know. I like feet myself too.
Yeah?
Yeah, I like sucking on toes here
She
and
has
there.
a weird theory.
What is it?
Do you have flat feet?
I do. I do actually. I do.
There we go. There
I
we
used
go.
to always
That's my
say
theory.
I wouldn't get enlisted because if there was a draft because I have flat feet, my mom would tell me that. You have flat feet. you won't
Literally,
get
we had
drafted.
this
She's like, "You're good,
conversation
mijo."
on the last episode, or it's
Okay.
another
My
episode.
my theory is expanded a little bit.
It has.
I think if you're ashamed of your feet or you don't like your feet, which coincidentally you both have flat feet, but if you don't like your own feet, you have a foot fetish with other people's
I like my feet. I think they're gross.
Nah, they're all flat.
I heard a theory that it is the closest limb to your genitalia.
Really?
What?
It could be.
Yeah.
I heard
No,
about
because
nerve
your
endings and
hands
stuff.
are your
Or
hands are
and
here.
it's attached to it. They both meet there.
Would you date someone with ugly feet?
Fuck no. Yeah, I would. I don't know. It depends on how hot they are
Or how ugly the feet?
or how ugly the
Yeah,
feet are.
for sure. Like
Yeah.
crusty and nasty, absolutely not.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, no, I
You know?
couldn't do that.
Yeah, for sure.
It says, well, it's asking how to navigate the roommate phase during the first year postpartum.
I think you have to talk about it beforehand. That sex is going to change probably after you have a kid.
Okay,
And-
but they're postpartum. So.
Well, okay, postpartum. Well, okay, so postpartum. I mean, it's just talking about how, like, I think women need to really tell their husbands exactly how their body has changed, how they himself have changed. If they could look at YouTube videos of the hormonal process that happens after having a kid,
Yeah.
like if or at least explain that I don't know why I can't have sex with you. It's me, not you. I know you're an attractive person who's still wanting to have sex. I just can't do that for you right now, and I have no idea why. And work on it, right? If your husband wants to have sex, and you're in a weird place postpartum, go to a therapist, explore with your doctor, see how you can get past that, right? It's so common and normal.
Yeah.
Right. For some people, they think like it's so easy. I'll just have a kid and then, it'll get right back to it. For some people, that's true. And other people, like, they never feel quite the same again with sex, which is common.
I would imagine too it's easy for women to not want to have sex even further because they feel alone. Because how could a man possibly understand the changes they've went through or the trauma they've went through, right?
So resentment.
Like maybe, and maybe like it's also part of like just acknowledging and maybe a little bit of accepting, like how I said that one therapist was like, he's not going to react to you like a woman would, and like you just have to, like maybe
that
it's
makes
getting
sense.
getting past that a little bit, like. This fool's gonna just keep shitting the bed, so maybe going to couples counseling and learning the compromise would be the best thing.
Well, here's the thing. Us men don't look, men are very steady in their hormones, right? Like men, peak at 18 with testosterone and it's just this gradual slowdown, right? So our hormones are very stable. Women, to produce a period, go through a crazy hormonal change just to produce one period every month. So you guys have hormonal changes after 12 up and down, so you guys are used to them. We as men have very little concept of that, right? I think, like, what kind of man would have a concept? A dude who's is doing steroids right at the gym, and then all of a sudden they
roid
stop,
rage?
yeah, and then like their testes stop making testosterone, and they have these hormonal changes and up and downs. So but other than that, it's very rare for men to have endocrinological problems. It's a lot more common in women. So it's just men can't relate because we can't conceptualize that, right? It's hard for us to even think like what a period would feel like a few days before. Like women have emotional changes before their period. They feel sick. They feel different. Like, it's this whole biological thing. They bleed out for 3 days. If men could get pregnant, or like if men had periods, we'd kill each other, or we'd have drive-through abortion clinics, right? Like there's just no way. There's a game next week. I need an abortion, Like
I'm gonna tailgate this weekend.
Yeah,
and
I
get
got
an
a coupon.
abortion.
yeah, exactly.
And then I imagine that a lot of resentment can easily build from now you guys. Okay, so now there's this other person. The mother stereotypically is pouring all of their, attention and time and nurturing into this little baby. And now when the guy leaves to do normal things that he would have done before, all of a sudden these hangs with the fellas or even going to work feels like abandonment. And this drives a bigger wedge in between the couple probably, right? Or that's obviously my assumption. I don't have kids.
I was just saying, do you have a kid?
But
No,
but
that's pretty accurate.
But I can see how, or I could just imagine. I could catastrophize how this would go down, right? Like how the resentment would build. And so I feel like only communication, and if you don't have the skills for communication, couples counseling can help you guys talk through that. Because, like, this fool's got to go to work. He's got to have friend time. But you too have to remember who you were before this baby.
For sure.
Like,
And it's hard to do.
and how do you do that without fucking bumping heads or being like, you just don't get it,
Yeah.
Because I'm already pissed off, man.
Well, I mean, I think that's just quite common, right? That this is such a typical thing of having a baby.
Do you hear that a lot?
Oh, it's so common, right? It's so common that you hear that. Often I see women who just have kids and they say, my child is the most important thing in my life. And I was like, no, that's completely wrong. Your husband in your marriage has to be number one. Because if your husband in your marriage, you guys don't work out, you're immediately taking down your child's chances of success. Of coming, you're immediately making your child susceptible to like trauma and like these other things.
Abandonment.
So, yes, abandonment. So
That's interesting.
Keeping your marriage intact is the best thing you could do for your child, right? And that's often what I tell women because look, we've done studies and men who have their kids and raise their kids after divorce, those kids are less likely to be abused. Why? Women generally don't sexually abuse their stepchildren, right? That generally doesn't happen. And men generally will step in and be like, hey, don't talk to my kid that way, right? Vice versa. I work with sex offenders. Men who have sexually molested or done something to their stepchild is really common. And people don't understand how common this is. It is super common. So, I always tell people like, when they say, I need to find a good father for my children, I'm like, what's wrong with you? Their father is the right person.
Yeah.
Just because he treats you unwell doesn't mean he treats his children unwell. They don't need another father. If he's not abusing them, you're already winning.
There's like a lot of enmeshment,
Yeah.
right? With
Yeah.
like the mom feeling loved and like,
Yeah.
yeah, that is
It's really bizarre, right?
You got to separate yourself.
Yeah. And let me
at
ask
the very least.
Let me ask you this. I obviously tell people, like, who really meets somebody and like they want to be your children's father, right? Like who really does that, right? Like that's kind of weird to me.
That does sound weird.
You know what I
Wait,
think.
wait, say that again?
Like, I mean, women think they're gonna find men who are just gonna love their children and like be their parent, and that's
Oh, yeah.
There are good men out there who are amazing stepfathers, right? And they really are like stand-up dudes, but that's very rare for me to find, right? Like, I don't find
And
that
it
a
shouldn't
lot.
be happening in week 1 of dating. That's fucking weird.
Exactly, right? You know, and then what people don't know is that a lot of these abusers, they're tactful, right? They do something where they go ahead and they find women who are susceptible, right? They find women who are abandoned, women who need financial help and emotional help, and women who are a little naive with children, right? Because, you know, these men groom these children. Right, so
You're talking about sexual offenders.
yes, so like you know, so often women will find these men. They're the most amazing guy. Blah blah blah. They like want to be with my kids, and I'm like, that's a red flag.
That's disgusting.
If women tell me like, you know, he's a little standoffish with my kids, he's a little like, you know, he's getting to know
Awkward.
them, tiptoeing. That's normal, right? That's normal for a stepfather to kind of like for your partner to kind of get to know your kids in an awkward way, right? You know, and like for it to be kind of like, you know, dicey. You know, that's normal. But if somebody just wants to be your kid's father out of nowhere, right, and save the day and, you know,
concerning.
make everything right, it's very concerning. You got to look out for that.
What would you say about women that come in and try to hand that rocks the cradle? You remember that movie?
Oh yeah, I do. Like the nanny.
Like
well, look at a lot of celebrities that's happened to, right? Do you know what I mean? Like Gwen Stefani, it happened to her, right? Like
Where the
her-
nanny tries
yeah,
to instill herself
exactly.
in the kids' lives.
Look, I often hear and like, you know, people say, well, I want to hire a nanny that's fun and young for my kids. I'm like, why?
The fuck?
Why? Like, why? Why
I
would
want to
you-
hire Nanny McPhee.
Why would you? Why would you?
Gross.
I want a senora or nothing.
Exactly, right? You know, why would you want a young, attractive person around your husband? Like, why would you want that? I wouldn't, because people can make emotional attachments from there. People don't start out by wanting to cheat. Like, it never starts out that way,
Things
right?
happen.
Things happen. Emotional attachments happen, right? You know? And so you want to safeguard your marriage. Don't bring other attractive people into your marriage like that, right? You know? And I say this often to men, there should be no reason for you to have a super close relationship with females unless there are certain things that happen, right? But out of nowhere, you really can't develop a friendship with the female after being married out of nowhere, right? It has to be certain things that align for that to happen and for it to be okay, right? One, it's like, you know, you can be like coworkers. I think coworkers is a great one, right? But boundaries, right?
Yeah.
That's it. Or two, that person's also in a relationship and married, right? A lot lower stakes, right? But like, how much are you hanging out? If you're already hanging out at work, why do you got to see each other outside of work? I tell people, like, you just got to be careful because you open the door to emotional attachments, right? You don't want to open that door past marriage because, you know, not everybody is like you guys who have to meet everybody and anybody. Right, you know, most people work in
The same 10
yes,
people
exactly.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You know, so you know, be very careful with coworkers. Be very careful who you become friends with. Be very careful who you let your husbands and wives be friends with.
I mean, so often do affairs start with people that were venting to each other or whatever, right? Like,
Oh,
my
yeah.
the coworker's so unhappy in their marriage. They're venting to you, and then next thing you know,
Well, there's research that shows that when people are cheating, they bring the person up. They always try to bring the person up in conversation.
why is that?
I think just to try to make it normal.
Oh,
right?
to normalize the presence in
normalize
their
it.
life.
Yeah, for
To
sure.
save their ass.
I think so. Yeah, for sure.
So, obviously, this has been one for the books. Do you have any? Can you think of any questions before we wrap it up?
No. Yeah, we definitely need to have you back on the show.
Yeah.
For sure. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, because these ones we tried to specifically pick questions around love, just because this is going to be probably coming out in February, but I think that we got questions regarding self too.
Yeah.
That would be good to have. Anyways, can you think of any parting words or?
Well, what I will say about like love and relationships is at the core of it, they're amazing, right? Like, I believe that people as humans, we belong in pairs for the most part, right? We do well in pairs. We do well with partners. We do well going through life with somebody else. The thing about it is that it's just imperfect, right? Because we're humans and we're going to mess up. But like relationships, they have their ups and downs, and the downs feel so much worse than the ups,
Mhm.
right?
The ups fill up.
Yeah, so the downs just, they pull you down and they pull your soul down. But if you could work through it, if you really love somebody and get to the other end, like it's worth everything, right? Ultimately,
Yeah.
And so I just see these young people who are not going into relationships, who aren't getting married, like they're really going to miss out on something for the most part. They're really going to miss out on that feeling of having companionship, of having to like really balance yourself out with somebody and like to really explore who you are, because when you're by yourself you can be as selfish as you want. It's all about you, but when you're in a relationship you have to really work, you really have to take into account this other person you're with, and their needs and their emotions.
And does that spill over into just like your social life, would you say?
Yeah, like you become a more caring person. Like a man who has been married for a long time has some wisdom to him. And for the most part, it's common sense stuff. At the end of the day, 2 + 2 = 4, right? And so that's the same thing with love. It's common sense. Look at who you marry. Don't expect them to change. Expect people to change a little bit, and to grow up a little bit. But sometimes people's growth journey takes longer than others. And it could be because of their parents. It could be about, where they grew up, past traumas and abuse that they might not even know they have. So when you marry somebody, you marry a person who you really don't even know. It's so crazy.
Especially when you're marrying so young, huh? That's a crazy thought too.
It is. But but the younger you are, the more flexible you are. The older you get, the more set in your ways you
Oh,
get.
that's true.
And
Because it's like the formative years.
yes, it's harder for you to adjust to being in a relationship. So a lot of people are like, I can't find the right person. Well, you're not trying to adjust to anybody. You want them to fit into your world, right? Into how you do things. And that's just not how things work. So if you want to be like a wife or you want to be a husband, you're going to have to change a lot about yourself. And the person with the more aggressive personality is going to take the lead for the most part. So look at who you marry and their personality. That's what I would definitely look at.
Wow. You've rendered us all speechless. Everybody's all bummed out.
Yeah, let's just cut. I'm just kidding. All right, well.
You truly are a professional, and it's a pleasure to talk with you about all this stuff that most people are afraid to even think about.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too, is like some of this stuff like is scary to even think about, right? Because what
Yeah.
lies on the other side. So I don't know. I think that this is all really important.
Yeah, I agree.
So do you want to plug your Instagram? Can people find you on Instagram, or you want to keep it private?
No, I can.
Okay.
People can just add me on Instagram. It's Second Opinion Pablo, 2 ND Opinion Pablo, PABLO. So
And we'll put that in the description. And is there a way to book with you,
That's what I was
or
about to ask.
do you take private sessions?
yeah, people can
or-
just DM me. I can. I am building a private practice on the side. I'm doing telehealth. I'm not taking like live patients right now, but obviously they're live, but not in person. I'm doing telehealth for
Cool.
right now.
Just don't let your dog interrupt you.
I don't. I have a private room.
His dog is literally 2 pounds, so it couldn't reach the camera even if it wanted to.
Yeah.
So, okay. So the best thing would be to DM you, and from there you can plug them with your how to contact you for booking or
for
whatever.
sure. Yeah, I could do that. Yeah.
Okay. Follow him. Fix your lives. I'm Sinai Garcia. You already know where to find me. It'll be in the description if you don't by now.
And I am Jimmy Jam. Same thing. You could find me in the description. Thank you.
We're all
guys so
bummed.
much. I know. You can see how my eyes are all glossy. You can find us.
I need a second.
No, thank you so much, Pablo, for joining us.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Can't wait to have you back. This was amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me. I've had a lot of fun, actually, for sure.
Yeah, I want to do one eventually on like setting boundaries like in like friendships and family dynamics too, 'cause-
Toxic family, like
Yeah.
toxic family stuff. Being Mexican, I'm good
Yeah.
for that one. You know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because we have a very like tribal mindset, right? Like locked in no matter what. But anyways, before I end up with a bunch with 3 sisters mad at me, let's sign off. See you at your next session.
Thank you guys. See you next time.
Wow. That went fast. I thought it was like a lot.
I thought it was like 40 minutes.
Yeah,
dude.
for sure. That was fast. Thank you.